Uh, so good evening, Aditya,
Good
uh,
evening, sir.
and Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir.
So first, many congratulations to you on this prestigious achievement of clearing the civil services examination with the first rank. So
Thank you
my
so much,
first
sir.
question to you is, so what were you doing when you got the news?
Sir, I was actually in my room. We had come back from our indoor class and were waiting for the outdoors. And during that period, the result was announced. So I received the first information from my friend itself. And he called me to his room, and then whatever we did had already gone viral.
Yes. So everybody came to know and came to see your video. It was a viral one indeed.
Yes.
Wonderful. So, Aditya, can you just briefly tell us about your family, about your family, who else is there in your family, your siblings, your early education and your schooling and everything?
Sir, my family has my father, who is an audit officer in Indian Audit and Account Department. My mother is a homemaker, and I have a younger sibling. My younger sister is currently studying in DU. As far as the question of my schooling is concerned, I did my basic schooling from Montessori till class 12th in CMS Aliganj Sector O, a school in Lucknow. So that has been my background so far.
So, it is seen that, so were you academically bright even in school, or this brilliance? Because for some students who clear the civil services exam, sometimes it happens that they have not studied all their life and then they suddenly study for civil services. In your case, what was it? Have you been studying all your life, or was it how was it like?
But I would say I was decently good in school and other parts of my academic life as well. So I was always into studies because my father always motivated me to study. So he was the main guiding light behind that.
All right, wonderful. Can you briefly tell me about your college education?
Sir, I did my BTech MTech dual degree from IIT Kanpur from 2014 to 19.
All right. So, one thing, Aditya, when did you think of preparing for civil services? Was it from the childhood itself, or you decided it after college?
So there were few elements from my childhood itself, like I had taken inspiration from my close relative, one of my close relatives, and so there was something at the back of my mind as well. However, with the opportunities that my college threw at me, I got into the corporate sector, and later on I realized that the kind of work I want to do should have certain elements like people interface, grassroots connect, and hence the personality development would be more holistic there rather than where I'm doing just coding or some kind of desk job. That's when I decided to finally switch my career into the civil services.
But from what we have heard, you've been working for a great firm and with a very good financial remuneration as well, isn't it? So
Yes, sir.
now, taking a hit on that, so you have said something in the mock interviews, but what's the real reason? Did you not? Because did you not think of it? So what really motivated you to leave such a comfortable job and then come here?
So the major reasons were that itself, because I always thought that money is something that does not matter that much for satisfaction. Money can only give you a certain level of satisfaction, and after that, it is the experiences and the kind of personality you are developing that can give you the satisfaction that you need in life. And as I told you, there were certain kind of motivations since the childhood itself. So all of them combinedly made me take the decision to resign from Goldman Sachs and come to this direction.
All right. So Aditya, I asked this question to all my successful students. Sometimes I ask them privately, but I'll ask this publicly to you. And probably I asked this to you this morning itself, and you gave me a very good answer. But I'll ask this again. So, when a person is successful, there are certain qualities that they have which makes them successful. It's of course not very easy to identify them. It's not easy. But if you look around, sometimes now that you clear the exam, this exam with uh, the highest rank possible, if you look back, what quality do you think you had particularly, which some of your friends or some of your colleagues did not have to that extent, which probably made you successful?
So I wouldn't say that this quality is rare. Many of the people have this quality, and that is why they become successful in their respective fields itself. But one thing which I had looked back upon myself and thought was that I always liked challenges, not just in academics but also in sports. I've seen that when the game gets tough, my performance itself tends to improve than from the normal days. And apart from that, I would say that my desire to bounce back was another important factor, which helped me during this period, especially when I could not clear the first prelims itself. So I think these two were helpful in making me sail through this journey.
So Aditya, when you said you did not clear the first prelims, do you think you made a mistake, or your learning pace was not as you were not able to give the due time? What is it like?
Sir, in my understanding, I was actually doing just hard work because hard work had got me itself very close to the cutoff. I failed by, I think, 2 or 2.5 marks, which was just one question. So I would say that the major factor there was the lack of smart work, because I was able to make a difference of almost 30 marks just by analyzing the previous year questions very deeply and finding out patterns, how UPSC is framing, let's say, wrong statements or right statements, so that you can actually take an attempt on the question without knowing much background about that question itself. So that was the kind of strategy I had adopted in my second attempt for the questions I didn't know, and I think that made the difference in the prelims.
So Aditya, do you think when it comes to the prelims, do we need some dedicated months for preparing for the prelims, or we can go with an integrated approach till the last date? Or do we need a dedicated timeline for the prelims? What was your timeline for the mains and what was your timeline for the prelims?
So, in my understanding, the preparation should be mains heavy, but then you cannot exactly ignore prelims itself, because I remember that I used to study in such a way which had an integrated approach. So I would mark the important points, the important facts, and those important facts are not just meant for prelims, but they can also enhance your answer quality in mains itself. So that kind of integrated approach I followed till the beginning of February, when we generally have prelims in May end, and the last 3.5 or 4 months were entirely dedicated towards prelims, in my understanding, because I'd also had one hit in the first attempt itself, so I was much more cognizant of that, and that's how I prepared during my entire journey.
All right. And Aditya, how did you come to know about Forum IS?
So I got to know about it from a few of my seniors who had already given the exam and gone through.
All right. So you were a part of Mains Guidance Program 2022 when you joined us. So what I'd say is that how was your experience with MGP program as a whole?
I would say it was a good experience, particularly writing some or the other type of series, whether you write it on yourself or by purchasing some test series, is very important to develop that kind of pace which you need to write 4,000 words in 3 hours. That itself is a challenging task. And I definitely feel you need some kind of simulation to be able to do that on the actual exam day. And in that perspective, as well as some broad overview of how exactly you are attempting your questions, what are the major mistakes you are making, what are the good things which you are doing and should continue doing. Those are the kind of feedbacks which made me like MGP.
All right. Did you face any major challenges such as a delay in your copy checking or anything like that? Or did you face any troubles with us as an academy? Or was it all smooth ride?
It was mostly smooth. I did not face that kind of issues with the MGP.
So Aditya, coming from an engineering background and switching to completely humanities dominated civil services examination, what changes or what specific adaptations where did you make to address a humanities paper? Did you make any such changes? Because I'm also considering that you had electrical engineering as your optional subject. So attempting a general studies paper, that switching from a complete electrical engineering to a general studies Indian society and history would be a lot challenging. So
Yes, sir.
what approach did you follow for example, for answer writing? How did you write your answers?
Sir, I think that my background itself gave me the way to make that switch. I had adopted a very objective approach towards answer writing itself. I had always tried to identify what exact elements need to be there in the answer in order to enhance the marks, be it from the toppers' copies or be it by actually talking to certain toppers. I tried to find out that, let us say, people say that you should have at least 10 points in 10 markers, 15 point 15 markers. So I tried to reach as close to that as possible. Or let us say you need judgments or articles. So I tried to learn them and put them in my notes itself. That if this is the topic, then I should definitely put these articles and these case judgments. So that kind of objective approach actually helped me with answer writing in the second attempt, as well as more so in the third attempt also. And I always think that my balance between electrical and GS was what helped me survive, because after mugging up things for half day, I had entirely half day meant for problem solving and doing numericals. So that was a kind of load lifter and providing me the diversity to not make me burn out.
All right. So one thing that we have tried. So any particular toppers whom you followed and whom you think from there copies you really liked and appreciated?
I would definitely say the copies of Shruti Sharma ma'am were excellent, and I referred to them quite a lot to find out not just the way of answer writing, but also of presenting, or even sometimes you get good content and good examples from her copies. So that is something I definitely followed.
Wonderful. So, Aditya, how did you do note making? Were you a digital sort of person or were you all pen and paper?
So I always made my notes using my digital platform. So I actually made it on MS Word itself and then took a printout. But I found typing easier than writing because, anyways, we are writing too much when we are practicing answer writing. So I prefer to type my notes.
All right. So, Aditya, how would not during your training for the IPS, which I assume would be very challenging, but how did your typical day look like when you were preparing for the civil services exam? Full throttle. Like what time did you wake up and how did your day go?
So I generally slept from around 11 to 6 or 6:30, and I used to wake up early. I had divided my day into slots. So, like initially, I would study a subject which required more mugging up in the morning. Then I would have my half day was reserved for GS, and rest of the half day was reserved for electrical. So early in the morning, I would go for GS1, GS2, GS3 in some or the other way, requiring mugging up. Then I would practice electrical from after lunch till dinner. And after dinner, I would go for answer writing or ethics, whichever was scheduled for that particular day. So that is how I tried to schedule my day. In the between, I would also go for whatever I want to do that day. Like sometimes I would just scroll social media. Sometimes I would go for a run. Sometimes I would pursue my hobbies like reading about dinosaurs, etc. So it was a mix of all.
Oh, yes. So, the dinosaurs, that hobby of yours, interest in dinosaurs, how did it really arise?
Sir, actually, it's a story dating far back to when I think I was in nursery or KG. My father made me watch movies like Godzilla and Jurassic Park, which actually sparked that interest. I think I was more amazed by their magnificence, which initiated that. Then I read about the movies, about the critical analysis, and soon I was reading books about dinosaurs. So that's how it progressed.
All right, wonderful. So, Aditya, how many hours did you study? I mean, this is a question that students expect toppers to answer. So, how many hours did you really study? I mean, you can tell about your first attempt, second attempt, third attempt. You can break it down because you're also undergoing training. So, how did you break it up and what was the hour count, if you at all counted?
Sir, I didn't believe in our count that much. I usually believed that whatever targets I have set for that particular day should get completed. But generally, I think that they definitely took 10 to 12 hours every day to complete those targets itself. Apart from that, the rest 12 hours I had in the day, I would sleep or pursue whatever hobbies I want to. So I think 10 to 12 hours would have been the approximate. But when the exam comes closer, then definitely that time shoots up because then you ignore your hobbies and all other things and try to focus maximum of your time on studies itself. So I think that's how it varied.
All right. So, when we have this an examination as demanding as the civil services exam, I'm not going to use the words that tough, but demanding. This exam definitely is a demanding one.
Yes.
So, what was your craziest day like or craziest stretch of studies like?
So I would say that the study part was not that crazy. In fact, the practice part was more crazy. So we do one simulation before mains, like writing
Mhm.
essay and GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4 consecutively. So
Yes.
by the end of each of those days, especially after when we come between GS2 and GS3, that night, so we have to just soak our hands in warm water, put Volini and whatnot in order to endure that particular pain. And
Yes.
even sitting for those long hours takes a toll on our back. So that was more crazy for me rather than the studies itself.
Yes. So in Forum, what we also do is that we have this simulation, when we have first day essays, next day we have GS 1, 2, and then we have 3, 4. So the idea is that 15 days before the mains exam, if you write it for 3 days, then whatever problem has to happen, you will have it 15 days before the exam. It won't happen during the mains examination. So we're doing that. Wonderful. And this, the whole point is this so that you know how much your hand can take. But
Yes.
and your hand also gets free after it, isn't it? After you write so much, your hand gets free. But then the exam is over. So wonderful. So Aditya, coming to other hobbies. So do you read books? And what kind of books do you read?
Sir, I have not been that of an avid reader. I like to read more about the dinosaurs and pursue my specific interest itself, like reading about evolution or reading about dinosaurs. and not the specific books like fiction or non-fiction that people generally read. So my focus on book reading was also targeted towards whatever I had interest in.
All right. So Aditya, during this whole preparation phase, there is a lot of demotivation because of the nature of this exam, the waiting period particularly. You have to wait for it
Yes.
endlessly until. So when you had your moments where you felt a little disappointed or demotivated, did you have such any such moments?
Yes, sir. Definitely after the first prelims, when the result was out, I was definitely demotivated.
And even on other days, on your bad days, if you're demotivated, what did you do to get out of it?
So if I talk about that big moment where the main demotivation came, there it was definitely, it took 1 or 2 days to bounce back. It took a lot of family support and motivation by them that okay, no worries, you should try to find out your mistakes and bounce back. It took a bit of counseling from my seniors itself about what mistakes I could be doing. So that was a more difficult phase. If you talk about the general days, then it was more like you just go out, have a walk, or go out and run or do whatever you like, and that gets you a bit back on track, because that takes out the momentary stress that you are facing and puts out that dopamine high, which gives you the feeling to try and aim for your targets again. I think that's how my stress management worked.
All right. So, Aditya, a lot of students and as well as a lot of your batchmates will be writing this exam again, the prelims and then the mains examination particularly. Can you suggest two, three, four, five some suggestions that you can give so that they can implement it in their mains and see some improvement with respect to their main score? What would be the five suggestions?
So with regard to mains particularly, I would say that the most important thing was to find out which papers you are not doing well. Like, you should have a clear idea about which papers you are satisfied with your score and which papers you are not satisfied with your score. And then it is important to put more of your focus on those subjects where you are not satisfied. So between my second and third attempt, I did this particularly. For example, from my experience, I can tell that in GS1, I was not satisfied with my score, and I thought that I need more marks in it. So I talked to few of my batchmates who have got 10 or 15 more marks than me. And I talked to them what different they are doing, which I am not doing, and try to implement those things, like making more diagrams, even in history, or making more maps. Like every geography answer should have one map. So those kind of tips I got from them, and I tried to implement it to the best of my ability. Similarly, in GS4, I was not having any planned preparation so far, like till my second attempt. So I made my notes, crisp notes, and also tried to find out newer examples. So those kind of strategies I implemented. Also took a bit of mentorship for ethics itself. So and in electrical, a lot of practice went in. Like I was making calculation mistakes very frequently in my previous attempt. So a lot of practice went in along with one of my friend who was preparing together with me. So those kind of targeted approach, I think, worked in my favor in improving my mains score.
Wonderful. So, Aditya, what is your favorite quote? Do you have a favorite quote or any quote that has inspired you?
So I would say the favorite quote would be the change you want to see in the world, but that is not actually relevant to UPSC. It is more for motivating yourself.
Fair enough. Wonderful, Aditya. So you had your brief association with Forum IAS. Were you satisfied with us as an academy? And
I was satisfied with the experience.
actually, wonderful. So that is all, Aditya. Any message that you'd like to give to all the students who have not been able to find their names in the final list? It is a devastating experience, of course. What would you say to them?
So I would say that keeping hope at this point in time was is definitely most important, and trying to find out your mistakes and rectifying them is even more important. So I think these are the steps you should take after taking a break of maybe a week or so if you want to bounce back, and then work towards your target in order to achieve whatever you have dreamt of. I think that is something which I would like to suggest.
Wonderful, Aditya. So my last question to you will be, which I asked from all the students, including Shruti Sharma, whose copies you may have seen. So I asked, so what pen did you use in your various attempts? Were you loyal with one pen all throughout all the three attempts, or did you change your pen for the speed
So
and presentation? Yeah.
I used the same pen in each of the attempt. Like I used one pen in second attempt, but in the
Mm,
third attempt, my sister suggested that use a gel pen. It would be more appealing to the eyes, and because it is brighter and has more ink, so even the width of the line is more.
mm.
So my
Yes.
sister suggested me to use gel pen. So then I switched from dot pen, which was gripper, I think, to gel pen. I'm not able to recall the name. So it was a simple pen, not much hi-fi. It was 10 rupee pen, I think, which I was using. So I think that was the change I would like to point out.
Chalo, wonderful. Thank you so much, Aditya, for all your time, and we wish you the best in your future career endeavors. And many, many congratulations once more.
Ji, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir.